Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin.
Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody.
Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more. But it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High-quality cigars plus personal customer service with Slow Burn. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. It's more than a mobile lounge. It's an environment and an experience rich in history, luxury, and personality. An elegant extension of any celebration occasion. It's the perfect escape and meeting place, a space where you can relax or enjoy a shared passion. Have Slow Burn plan your next big event, or before you are planning to celebrate your win over your athletic rival, you can shop our collections at www.slowburnwaco.com.
But if they want to tab, I'ma do the dab, yeah.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Ooh, yeah, that's nice.
Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless.
Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password?
Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable.
That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavill, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention.
This is Dr. Cavill with Inside the HBCU
Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, Professor Bishop, and Professor Washington. How you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Let's get into it. Looking forward to another exciting Tuesday night where we can recap some of what there was a lot of stuff that went on this past weekend. So looking forward to it.
Not
bad at all, Doc.
Yeah, it was a good weekend to some. The Texas schools went on the road. They happened to go to the state of Mississippi. It didn't end too well on Saturday for one school, and then not too well on Monday either for the other schools. So it'll be interesting to see what Charles thinks about this weekend, and as well as what Mike thinks as well. But being said, let's get into episode 230 of Inside HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering and supporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports from institutions large and small, from the NIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. Notice I'm starting out with my lab jacket, lab coat as you would. So, you know, we'll start out with, a lot of people said it's big news. We'll see what you all think about this big news. I'm your host, Dr. Nyadakaville, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer. That is Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Today's episode, like always, of Inside HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. So with that being said, you know, usually I go to you all in regards to, you know, what are the news of the day. But, you know, people have told me that it's big news that Hampton is expected to join the CAA, Colonial Athletic Association. This is coming out of HBCUsports.com. Hampton could be on the move again. At first reported by College Hoops Today, Hampton is expected to join the Colonial Athletic Conference as early as July 1st. The report indicated that the league was also targeting Monmouth and Stony Brook. There was a timetable on an official announcement. College Hoops Today and said Hampton and Howard, according to those with knowledge of the discussion, they were rumored back in October. Looks like Howard was like, thanks, but no thanks. But Hampton says, we're all in. Hampton is currently a member of the Big South. With all seriousness, I ask you all, if a tree falls in the forest and does not make a sound, is it big deal?
No, if it does, it's not making a sound, and it's not big news. But I guess the $1 million question, Doc, is this is obviously a big thing for Hampton, but I wanted to know why was why was this considered the ultimate chess move for Hampton to matriculate their way to the CAA, to the Colonial Athletic Association. And, you know, from looking at the article, especially going back to HBCU Game Day, you know, Dr. Dennis Thomas at the time made that statement that moving to the CAA was the ultimate chess move. Maybe at the time, with Virginia Commonwealth being in the CAA, you know, maybe I could see it a little more then, being at a basketball conference and trying to get that other bid within the conference. But I don't see the correlation now in terms of the big news of moving to the CAA. Somebody's got to explain that one too.
Right. To be fair with you, as you said, when the decision originally was to move from CIAA, MEAC directly into the CAA, I certainly think maybe 20-some years ago, you could make the argument that the Colonial Athletic Association, particularly in the sport of basketball, was a much better league because it was a multi-bid league, which means financially, that's a windfall to the conference and therefore the institution if they distribute the money like that. Because not only did you have George Mason, you had Virginia and Commonwealth, VCU, which we all remember having teams that have went that deep into the tournament. So you got multiple accolades from the Colonial Athletic Association in terms of what they were able to do. Recently, though, it's been a one big league. So you're going from one big league to another one big league to one big league. So not a lot there. Football, this is a conference that had multiple teams that go into the playoffs. It's had multiple teams play for championships. James Madison being one of them. That's probably the most recent one. But again, they're leaving.
They leave.
Yes, right. So I think, people are considering the history in terms of where they've been. Sometimes if we're not careful, we do have the proximity to whiteness that we continue to look at and see it as more popular than where you are with the culture. And if you're making an independent move, I think 20 years ago, you could use the metrics to talk about how this is a much better move in terms of what you seek to ascertain and what could be on the table. But at this point, I'm very intrigued what this really means. And I say that in terms of the cultural interest. I thought it was fascinating just the other day when you had North Carolina A&T and Hampton play each other, and the news was out there about this rivalry being restored. And if you know anything about college athletics, a lot of college athletics are about rivalry and the culture associated with rivalry. So if you take those rivalries away, the next thing is to start a new rivalry. And that takes time. Even in these super conferences we see, expansion, it's the old rivalries that get the story. The new rivalries, if they get, a boost of some really close games or something tactical goes on in the games, then they can start laddering and create the rivalry that's necessary for it to explode. But in terms of the interest of the masses and even your fans, it's going to be fascinating to see what that really looks like. To give you a case study on this, we have this with Tennessee State in the OVC. And we see that the lather-rich rivalries that exist is, especially in the sport of football, is with Jackson State for the most part, in the Southern Heritage Classic. And he gets a lot of lathering. You've seen some degree John Merritt Classic kind of get that, but things taper down when you get into conference play. The cultural connection is not there. You've seen an erosion of fan base from Tennessee State. And I'm not just saying this from this. I mean, you've had Tennessee State folks that have called me about this and they're concerned about that, and that some administrators don't seem to be listening. There is a group of fans, to be fair, that do think that it's a better association of being an Ohio Valley Conference. But I would say that only matters if you win. If you don't win, the benefit of being in a conference, either from perception or because of the data suggests, it doesn't work if you're in the middle or at the bottom of the conference. It doesn't matter in terms of in a big fish in a small pond, or being a large fish in this larger pond. What does it really do for you? And so those are some things that are really interesting to me when you get introspective and you look at this from a truly a business perspective, what it means. And then the last thing before I let you jump back in here in terms of this is the academic association. And there is some framework to academic association and how it can be supported by the conference major and certainly the low major or conferences below the Power Five. The Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12, they have these academic partnerships where they actually really provide academic clusters where faculty travel and trade each other. You see it most recently in the SEC, where they do a big connection from a conference perspective of how they do cross-cultural connections between the academic programs. I have yet to see that, view that, if you would, at these mid-major and low-major conferences. So I'm always interested what that means, because really how you rise in terms of your academic profile is the research that you do and are able to get, which we just recently saw with Southern and Prairie View moving to R2 status from the Carnegie classification. So I just wanted to make sure we're clear and put that on the table and start out with some serious conversation of what this means, and not just let somebody gaslight you in the term of whether something is big or not. So did you have a follow-up question, Charles? And we're going to get you in there too, Mike, because I know you want to make some comments as well.
Well, you touched on something with regards to the case study with Tennessee State, and I wanted to know, Doc, what are those metrics that are glaring that state to you that there is an erosion of fan base? Are you growing the ticket base, or I mean, what if you see
there's a couple of things that I've looked at personally that are important to me. One of the obvious is attendance, and people will argue, well, attendance, what does that mean in terms of quality of wins? Well, you're right. In terms of direct results, attendance does not provide a framework for wins, but obviously attendance can provide a revenue source, and with revenue sources, you can hire better coaches, better equipment, better facilities, depending on how much you're getting. And theoretically, usually the conferences or teams and programs spend the most money, they tend to have a higher winning percentage until they match up with somebody that equally is paying as much money. And then oftentimes it becomes more about the Jimmy and Joes you have in the coaching perspectives. But just in terms of apps of all that, then it usually goes there. The other thing I look at is just the fan base interaction. In terms of what's on social media platforms, those that have their own fan base, how much do people interact? What is the conversation like? And I'm talking about from a business perspective. If you see a lot of engagements from a business, that's what you prefer, because that means you can entice folks to support you. If you don't see lack of engagement, and I'm a business, that's concerning to me. I mean, it's going to be hard for me to support you other than at a very menial base level where I'm just putting my name on it just to be saying some goodwill, but you can't command serious resources for that. So that's another place where I look at the cultural connection in terms of that. And so that's just a few, and I could go deeper, but I want to get Mike in there. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, I think a lot of the points that you hit are really good. I think, one of the things that stood out to me when I heard this is, what is the value proposition? What is the business valuation of this? So, if you leave the Big South and go to the Colonial Athletic, what are the key drivers? What are the wins and losses? So James Madison is leaving, probably going to the Sun Belt. So, according to, if this is true, the CAA is looking at Stony Brook and Monmouth as potential members, and then Hampton. What's the matchup? Because if you look at the Colonial division, so you're talking schools like Maine, Richmond, William and Mary, Stony Brook. I even saw an article saying that this will allow, the Pirates to renew a rival versus William and Mary. Does that fit in the? I know I had to stop when I saw that. I saw that a couple of times, to renew a rivalry with William and Mary. I've never known Hampton to have a rivalry with William and Mary. Where do you want your organization to be? What do you want it to look like? We know that rivalries drive success. There's history, there's case study that rivalries drive business success. So is this the kind of rivalry that you want to drive? Is this the type of cultural fit you want to drive? What's the business valuation and proposition for Hampton? What's in the analysis? Is it just purely regional? Are there academics considered? Are there other sports that are considered as a natural fit? Are there doctoral studies? There are a few schools in there to credit that have doctoral programs, but I'd like to understand what's joined the Big South about a minute ago. We'll say 2 or 3 years ago. And things are not really, matriculated into a relationship. And now you're jumping ship and going to the Colonial. I just like to understand what's the business from a business standpoint, because we know college sports is one part business. What's the business valuation? What's the wins, the losses? What's the gain to the Colonial Athletic Association? What's the gain to Hampton? Because that's not evident on the upfront story that I'm seeing. If it goes to what we're hearing and what we're seeing.
Well said, Mike. Before we get out of here and get into this break, because I think we chopped it down enough, Let me get a shout out to the lab listeners out there. Appreciate it. Y'all jumping in here and they're chiming in and they're using tougher words than I did, but I thought it was interesting. Prairie A&M wins grant to produce show on HBCU Sports. This is by diverseeducation.com. I think this is great in terms of using your communication program, but I'm fascinated to see in terms of this $200K grant designed to build connection and opportunities. Will there be any sporting context in this? And that's why I bring it up on the show, just to talk about what goes on there. But also big news was Morris Flowers expected to take J.C. Smith, and that's Johnson C. Smith's job. This is part of HBCU game day. Obviously, he left Fort Valley State University suddenly for a lot of folks, but I think he thought he had a great opportunity. Interesting going from the SIAC to the CIAA. Johnson C. Smith is a total rebound. You would think Fort Valley for a while would have been a bigger program, but I'm interested that Johnson C. Smith is actually putting money behind a program to make this move. It'll be interesting to see because sometimes what you perceive is not necessarily what it is. So fascinating to see how this pans out and what kind of move it is. Well, let's get into this break. This is Dr. Bill inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We'll be right back after the break. Stick with us, lab listeners, as we get into quarter number 2.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon. So now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language. And she really loves her grandson. Like really loves.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. I did want to get into some of these matches. Let's get into this basketball talk. I like a lot of folks out of here. Some of them agree with what we said, and some of them don't. I certainly understand. It's fascinating. We'll get into a little more conversation, but let's get into what took place this past weekend. Should I tease Charles out, or should I go ahead and let him get his come on? Man, you started out 0-3. Let's start with the men's basketball.
Yeah.
I know Shivery's not dead and the women are just doing their thing, so I'm already tired of talking about Jack State women. And I mean that extremely respectful because it's hard to even analyze what they're doing because they're literally like not just winning games, but they're like, I don't even know. Yeah, worse than dominating to me, Charles. You try to be nice. It's just it's quite ridiculous. I mean, it's not even close. I guess Texas Southern, to their credit, played it close for a half, maybe, to some degree. And then it just got away from them. But most folks, they can't even get in within 20 points of this team. That's amazing. I mean, to give you a perspective, we haven't seen anything like this other than the kind of UConn days when they were going through their conference run and just, literally dominating teams in American. Fascinating, obviously different level, but just to give you some comparison in terms of what you do within your conference or how you dominate teams. So I guess chivalry's not there. Let's start with the women. Let me go with you, Mike, first. In terms of just how Jackson State is dominating their competition, I think enough hasn't been really talked about in all seriousness about what we see going on in the transformation we see with Jackson State's women's basketball program. Obviously, last year they did the double-double, the regular season championship and tournament championship, and we always say it's tough to do back-to-back, but I mean, they've gotten off to a great start because literally the basketball season essentially is 25% underway in terms of conference play. 25% has pretty much been completed. And look what they've done thus far. What are your thoughts on
that? Where do I start? No, I'm gonna say Jackson State women ain't nothing, man. I don't know what y'all are talking about. No, I mean, seriously, their margin of victory, their last few games is 30+ points. You look at their last win against TSU, what was it, 92-68? You know, Deja Rogan, Amisha. I mean, seriously, they outscored almost the whole team, literally. So it was just incredible. So you look at what they're doing on the boards. Jackson State had 29 or 30 second chance points. So they're not only doing it from the field and from the paint, but they're getting those rebounds. They're getting fast break opportunities. And this is game after game after game. They are a well-oiled machine. So you look at what they're just moving from team to team. Go ahead. I'm sorry, CB, you're about to say something because I had plenty of more points.
But before you do that, before I let Charles jump in here,